We have advanced into a project. Today we are looking into the tracking, and for that I have behind me the cost report of a project. The project is a training project that we do within a more global project. It's the CRM project. CRM stands for Customer Relation Management System, and this is now implemented in this company, and here we are training 50 people. And you see behind me the complete cost of the training part is those 140,000 euros that you see. We have already had a module on tracking, the first part. This is going to be the second part, and you see that we have already advanced into this project since we've completed 7% of it. I'm Christian from Vision 6D, and I welcome you to this session into we will go into tracking and controlling a project. So this is one of the reports that we find by default into msproject. It's a report that is interesting, and especially for those of you that are handling costs. In the case that you do not handle costs, be aware that in the career of a project manager, nearing costs is something that will bring you new project and bigger project and help you in advancing your career. So what you see currently with me in this project, it's that we have a table in which we have defined, and msproject defines the four phases of the project. We have initiation, planning, execution, and closing. We have baseline this project, which means that we have taken a picture of how we think that this project is going to evolve. Baselining is important in project management since it is the reference to which we will compare how good are we going to do. How are we doing? And this is constantly compared to the baseline. What you also see, it's here, I have a first graph in which you see the four phases of this project with initiation, planning, execution, and closing. When it is in orange, it means that these are the actual costs. When it is in blue, it means they are the remaining costs. Actually, we are done with the initiation part. This is what those 7% complete do represent here. So now we will enter into the planning of this project, and we will follow with execution. And at the end, we have a small part which is the closing. The progress here, the graph of the progress, is also a really interesting graph because you see that vertically here we find the total cost of the project. It means that we've started from zero spending, slowly spending, and going up to those 140,000. And this is the cumulative of the spending. Like that, we'll see how we near the maximum of our budget. And what you will notice on this graph, it's that there is a slow start, then we accelerate, we have a bit a slow part here in the middle, and then there is a big acceleration, and slowly we are tending toward the maximum of the spending. So if I would like to summarize this, I would say we start slowly, then we have an acceleration of the spending, and then we end slowly too. So this is with a slow start, something intense in the middle and slowing at the end. It makes the shape, it nears the shape of a nest. And this is what in project management we refer to as S-curves. So with this, of course, this is not such a nice S-curves as you could see in a theoretical project management training, but this is the reality of how a certain project has evolved during time. So we are standing here in February. We've started this project, and I will give you an overview now of the project itself. So we've done already some part of tracking into the project, so you can always refer to the other modules. There are 6 modules in all, through which I teach you all what you need to know with msproject in order to do a project from start to the end. So you can redo what I've done, you can adapt it. The files, they are available on vision6d.com/download. This exercise or this training here is referred as the training project. So here you see that we find again our different phases: initiation, planning, execution, and down below we'll see the closing. I will just switch the way you see me. Like that, you have a better overview of what's happening in the project. In the Gantt part that you see here, we see gray and blue lines. Gray lines, they are what we had defined as the reference, the baseline of this project. The blue lines are what we have done additionally. So in this project, if I might continue, I will take some other reports here. I will take the work overview report that you also have an idea how work is going down. You see that initiation here has been done. It's the actual work. In orange in this report, we have the remaining work. Here we have a chart that could be defined as a burn down chart. It's, you see, the work, the number of working hours involved into this project. We see in the end how we are advancing in the project, how we are going to consume those hours. So we see that here, work-wise, this project has already advanced by 8%. We have a total remaining of hours of 564 hours, and the actual work, what we've done into the project is 52 hours. If I go a bit down now, I let you have a look over this chart, which is the resource, the work of the different resources involved into the project. You see that actually has worked into the project manager and the stakeholders. So these are the first part of this project that I want you to be able to see. What I want you also to be able to see, it's that if I come here, well, it wasn't the right graph that I wanted. If I come here into my project, we have here what we call an entry table. It's the table that we are used to work with by default into msproject. We have here several different tables that we can use. If, for example, I take here the schedule table, you will see that we have the task, start and finish date, and we have new columns which are the late start, late finish. What does it mean? It's that I could start a certain task at the latest date defined into late start without putting the deadline of the project into danger. And we have here a column which is the free slack. It means on each task, what do we have as margin? The task could be prolonged, could be displaced in time. This slack is showing us on which task we have a certain margin for this, meaning that if we either need more time or have to move the task, we have a reserve of days before that this would bring any issue into the problem, into the project. So this is a second table I wanted to show you. So now I will show you some other table too. You see here we have a tracking table. And the tracking table is interesting because you can directly key in the actual start and actual finish. And you can also define into this column the percent completed. How many percent did you perform on a certain task? Okay? So, and after you see actual duration, remaining duration. I'm going now to go back to the entry table, the one we were used to work with, and we are going to follow up onto this project. So we are now at the stage where we do the planning, and into planning we are going to determine the scope. So I have here already prepared. You see something, maybe I will come back one step, because here we have 9 days that are defined, and those 9 days you see that they are illustrated here by the blue line. This is interesting because we see here below the gray line that was shorter. So it means that at that stage into this project, the task 7 has been prolonged by a certain number of days. They are illustrated here, but by that prolonged blue line. So by how many days was this prolonged? We can maybe go into the variance table to have a look about this, and still looking at the task number 7, which is here inside, you see that we have a start variance. That it means did my task start a bit later? The variance here is 0. This means that this task started on time. But the next column, which is here, it's when did it finish that task? We see here in this cell that we have 4 days. So this explains those additional days we see here in the blue line. They are 4 days. So it means that we have 9 days all in all, within which 4 days were a prolongation. So it means that the gray bar, and if I go on the gray bar, you can see that it writes that it has a length of, or a duration of 5 days, where the blue one has a duration of 9 days, which explains the 4 days variance we have here into the finish date. So this is this task at this point. Now there is an important thing that we need to do into a project. First of all, I will give you a complete overview of the project. So for that, I go into View and I select to show you the entire project. You see that on top of my shoulder here, some of the tasks are in red. It's because into the Gantt chart, I decided to show you the critical tasks. If now I remove this, you see that we don't have anymore any critical task into the project that are shown. I will come back and show it again because this is interesting to be seen. So you see that at the beginning of the project where we are standing here, we don't have any critical task. So with that, you have a complete overview of the project. So now I'm going to take again here the table of the schedule that we see. And in the table of the schedule, we see that here within the dates that we have here, we had a late finish for this task that could be in July. With our prolongation, we are still in March, so there is no issue, no other task has become critical due to this delay. Now, when we are tracking a project, we need to know where are we standing in time. For example, we use what is called the status date. You see that the status date we are doing currently here is the 24th of February. The 24th of February is one date where we hadn't started the project. This was the beginning of the project. So I'm going now to set me to a point where I would say I position myself after that we did determine scope. So I'm going to say that we are standing by the 29th of March. For this, I say OK. And what I'm going to do, it's to do the follow-up on the task determine scope. So, of course, at that stage, we are done with this part, this task. So I could simply now come back into the Gantt chart and say that this task, we've done it 100%. This is what I have done for the 3 previous tasks. What I want to do is to say that this task is on schedule how we had planned it. And for this, I can use here another button which is mark on track. So I'm going to mark it on track and you see the changes into the Gantt chart. First of all, it is now said that the task is done 100% and you see that the color of the task has now changed to darker blue. I will zoom in a bit to let you see this with more details. So you see that we have a darker blue in opposition to those other tasks here below, which are in clearer blue. So this shows the progression we've done into this task. If we were not 100%, but let's say that we were 80%. So you see that 80%, it's something that we cannot say. We can either say 75% or 100. So to give something that is not predefined on a button, we can always go into the information of a task and directly in there you can key in the value you want. So I'm going to do that. And I'm using this opportunity to show you two things. First of all, we've just done it. You see that you can enter numbers. And here you see that the darker blue bar is really showing how much did we advance into the project, into this task, and the clearer blue shows the remaining effort we have to provide for this task. So I'm going with Ctrl Z to remove what we just did. Like that, we are well here at 100%. So you can ask any question. The chat is open. And I forgot to welcome you in the chat to show that the chat is open. I'm happy to see that I have people that follow this session. It's always a pleasure for me to share those experiences that I'm doing with my customers and a lot of projects in which I am involved. So we are now going to continue into the planning part, and I'm just enlarging here that we all can see this really well. I'm going back to take the entry table. And I'm going to look to what happens here with the human resources. With the human resources here, we said that we are scheduling this for 3 days. And we are going to say that this is going to end by the 1st of April. And the second task after material resources is going to end by the 6th of April. Those two tasks, they went according to what we had scheduled. So what I do is that I select the two tasks, and I'm also going to position myself at the 6th of April. So I'm going into project and I'm changing the status date. I'm moving to the 6th of April because we are doing the status of this project the 6th of April. And there, once I select it here, you see that nothing changes. It's a virtual line. The position where we are looking at the project is now the 6th of April. And we are going to say that those two tasks were completed 100%. So I could, for each task now, go and select the button 100%. I could go in the information, set it to 100%. But what I'm going to do, it's simply here to say that those tasks, they were on track. So it will say that they were accomplished 100% till the status date. So with that, I'm going now into the report. I'm going to look at the cost overview, and you see that we've already advanced a bit more into the project because we have now 27% of the project that is accomplished. And we see here in this chart that into the planning, there are still some remaining costs, of course. And I'm going now to look at the work overview here that we have. So we see that actual work, almost everything has been done into the planning. We still have a bit here that is remaining. And percent work, we've done almost 50% of the project. If I go down and I have a look at the resources, you see that the project manager, the PM, has still some hours to be involved into the project. Stakeholders, they are done, they gave their agreements, to the project, so they are done. And now it's the consultant and the assistant that still have quite a bit of work that is remaining into this project. I want to take now also another report, which is the upcoming tasks. And we see here that nothing is defined for the moment. And if I go into the underreported of costs, and I would like to see, do we have somewhere some costs overrun? And you see that we had during the planning those additional days during determined scope, and this is shown here as an increase into of the costs into the planning phase we see here. And we see that those increases of costs, they were mainly for the project manager who had to work more, as well as the consultant who had to work more also. And here down we see the cost variance, those 8,800 euros, and here you see the cost variance by resources. You see that the project manager at that stage did cost us 4,000 more than expected, and so did also the consultant cost us more, 4,800. I will give a look at the task in progress, critical tasks. So you see that we still have 3 critical tasks: the technical training itself, the intervention consultants will do in Lille, and the last element is the last payment. So with that, I will now advance with this project, and I will now look into those tasks, and I will take the task number 11. We are going to look at the 11th April, what is happening in our project. And we are going to say the following. You see, we have financial resources. In fact, we are talking now money into this project, and we are at the stage where we need to determine the budget. So I will take those two as a single step together, and I'm going to check the status of the project by the 13th of April. So I go into project again, I'm changing the status date, and I'm going to do this the 13th of April, or better said, let's do it on the 14th. So we say we are at that date, the 14th, and you see that here we have now 0%. So it's like if nothing was done into the project for those 2 tasks. And we are going to say the status is the following. We've done something, but we needed some additional information, so it means that we are a bit delayed. So what we managed to do, it's that about the financial resources, I want to give the status of the resources they don't want to open. So now they are. We are going to say that we managed to do this 80%. We are still expecting some information. So we see here that we are about 80%, and determine the budget. Here we are going to say that we are about 60% of this. So we could advance this a bit, but of course, at the current situation, all those tasks should have been done. So we are going now to look at some reports. I want to see in progress here, late tasks, and you see that we have 2 late tasks. I think you understand absolutely this because it's the way I brought them in, but this is on purpose to show you how you can identify late tasks and what it exactly means. So with that, I'm going back here to the Gantt chart. I have those tasks and I'm going to give a look at some of the other tables. First of all, if I look at the tracking table, what is the tracking table telling us for those 2 tasks? It is telling us the same thing that we see on the graph. The first task is 80% and the second one is done at 60%. So now we can also go into another. Oh no, let me change this. We are now going directly into this table, going to say that you see normally the first task, the financial resource task, should last 3 days. But here we are going to say that it lasted 4 days. And this, you see that I can directly do it into the table here. And you see that it has been prolonged by an additional day. But msproject has considered that it is accomplished at 100%. And determine budget, we are going to say exactly the same too. That is to say that it lasted 2 days. So with that, we have all those tasks that have been now accomplished at 100%. We are now going to go into the cost overview. And we see that the planning is done. And we see on the planning line a variance that has jumped from 8,800 to 11,000. We have accomplished 35% of the project. And you see that the total cost of the project has also increased. Now let's give a look at the cost overrun. Here we see again that the planning costs now 11,000. I'm going now to continue with the Gantt chart with our tasks that are here. We are now entering into the execution part. And we are simply going to check here the Friday just before the start of the training, which is the 28th of April. So we position ourselves with the status date at the 28th. There we have the coordination, and we can say that this was accomplished 100%. So I can directly enter this into this line here as 100%, and we see directly the effect here on the line. We have now the 100%. Here below, the preparation, what I would like to say is that it lasted in reality 3 days. So you see that here I cannot enter that kind of information, so I will go and choose another table. We can, of course, go into the entry table. Let's see what about the schedule table. And we could say here that preparation here has ended the 29th. Okay? So we see that there is a move on the right, but the duration hasn't been prolonged. So let's see if I can change anything here. And I'm going to choose another table. We are going to give a look at the work table, and here you see that the work, actual work here, was 24 hours. So like that, we have a better representation of what we thought, that is to say that the work was prolonged by 1 day. So of course that now we need to go into the tracking table, let's say, because it's easier into the tracking table, and let's say there that we accomplished this for 100%. So what I want to show you here with this table, it's that if you have accomplishment completed percentage that aren't the predefined one, 25, 50, 75% or 100%, it's easier in this table to enter the different status, the percent complete. So with that, we have advanced here in this part of the project. And now we are in the situation where we are doing the week of training. Just relax. This was so well prepared that everything went smoothly into this training. So we are going to set us the week after the training. For that, I'm going to use the entry table, and we see that the training is done by the I have to go and check here up on the calendar. Yes, it's in May, the 2nd of May. So I'm taking now a status report, which will be now in May. And I'm going to do a status report by the 10th of May. At that time, everything that we had to do within the training week went on schedule, on cost, no bad surprises. So what I'm going to do is to say that all those tasks here, they were performed according to the plan. And I'm simply here to mark them as completed, and you see them defined here as 100%. There is one point that I would like you to be aware of. You see that some are in dark blue, and here it's a dark emerald color. It's because this task here, the task 23, which is actually the training itself, was defined as a manual task. So with that, we went through this part of the project. And now what is left, and for this I'm zooming into all the entire project like that we can see. So we have some last tasks that remain here at the end. We are going to move, but I want you to have an overview of the report. the cost overview, for example, and you see that execution has been done. There is a remaining cost. Those remaining costs, they are the one concerning the interventions of the consultants on site. Now, what I'm also willing to have you see as a report, because I think it's good to have the parallel between those different reports, it's that you see that we have into the project accomplished 81% of the project. We have a remaining 120 hours, and we actually already spent into the project 520 hours. And you see with this graph that it is in the execution part that we still have things to do. Regarding the resources, you see that our resources, our assistant and the project manager, they are done. The only one who have some work left are the consultants. And this is to show you at the end of the project, we have 3 on-site interventions by the consultants. The consultants, they trained those 50 people from 3 different locations, which are Lyon, Marseille, and Lille. And now, within an interval of 1 month, they will go to each location to help the people start after the training directly with the new system. So we are now going to give a look at those things, how they happened. And what we noticed is that in Lyon, it lasted a bit more. The consultant, he went there and he had to come back the week after. So this wasn't planned, but we could expect this into a project. That's why also we've left margins here in between. We don't rush to do one location after the other one. We leave a bit space like that. We can get feedbacks or maybe give room that consultants can do more interventions. And in Lyon, it was necessary. The consultants, they understood where were the issues with the people. So they had to spend in all 7 days in Lyon. With that, we see here the prolongation of this. So now I'm going to make it short for the rest. The other interventions, they went perfectly as planned because they had learned into Lyon where were the issues and they immediately could correct them for the other sites. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set me by the 26th of July. For this, I come back into the status dates. I'm setting me in July. We are in July now. And I'm saying, okay, we are the 27th. It's the next day after the last intervention of the consultants. And I'm going to say those 3 tasks you see here, apart from for a prolonged time for Lyon, the other 2 sites went well. So I'm going again to say that by now we can mark that everything was done on track. So this was done. I have just a question mark here. Why does it say 60%? Oh, I understand. Do you also know why I have 60% here and not 100%? Yes, of course, you know I made a mistake on the dates. My status date stands on the 27th, and it was in the middle of this intervention at the 60% of this intervention. So this is my mistake. I need to change here the date of the status date to be by the, let's do it in August, the 1st of August. we are doing the status date, and once again then I'm going to say that everything was marked on track. It's perfect. We have now 100% of everything we have here. I have a question concerning the S curve. Just precise that this was done in the beginning of this module. So we had it already. If you go back, Jacob, you will find it in the beginning of this session. So now we have this, so we are going to give a look again at our main reports that show us the cost overview. You see here that the cumulative percent complete, and if I can give an answer, this is what we consider also as the S curve, because I will give again the explanations that I gave here in the beginning. You see the spending, it's the cumulative spending, and this is a bit more than 140,000 euros, it's 145,000. And you see that all projects, mostly, they start slowly. And then there is an acceleration when you enter into planning, and even more when you are into the heart of the project, that you do the execution part. It's then that you spend the most in terms of cost, spending of cost, and also of work. And after, you see slowly that you are spending or working less into the project till the end. So this is the general shape on how you are spending the budget through all your project. And you see there is a slow start, a slow end, and acceleration in the middle, and this is the shape that we refer to as being those S curves. Here you have it in absolute value. What we do, S curves, we show them in percentage. Okay, so this is one of the curve that you can refer to as being an S curve. So what I wanted to show you with this is that we are slowly arriving at the end of this project. You see that remaining cost, we have 0. So we aren't going to spend anything into this project. Nevertheless, it's not absolutely complete, the project. There is still something to be done. And for that, I'm going just to give the work overview here. And you see that we don't really have hours remaining into the project. You see that the work burned down has followed the gray line at the end, which was the baseline. We see that all our phases here are accomplished. So what is it that is missing? It's what we refer in all projects as being the closing. The closing phase, usually we do a meeting on which we reflect on how this went, on how the project went. We store the data to use them for next project. We take lessons learned. And here there is one thing that is left. We need to do the last payment. And what I'm going to do is to set us at a date that is now after the 15th of August. We are now going to say that we are maybe the 25th of August. And by that time, we are going to say that the last task 30, the last payment was done. So with that, we can confirm that all the tasks we had into the project, and for that I'm going to go into the reports and are there any upcoming tasks? There are no upcoming tasks. And if I go into resources and I would like to look at the resources, we see that no resource has any hour remaining into the project. So this was to give you an overview of all the project we had, and you can see here the earned value into this project. I won't enter into the detail of this, but I wanted you to be able once to see it, and we will have a further module not on this project, but entering into the details of those different elements that we have here, where you can understand how the spending, how did we have variances into the project. With that, I have now accomplished myself that series of 6 modules that presented you a project from start with no notions of msproject. We went from creating the planning, assigning and defining resources, we've done the cost, we baseline the project, and now we use 2 modules to do the tracking of the project. Those modules, they are already online, they are available today, so you can simply access to the channel Vision 6D on YouTube and you can follow this training. It's about 6 hours of training where you can anytime ask questions. Any comment will be answered by myself directly, so feel free to ask questions and feel free to subscribe to the channel. For me, it's always a pleasure to be here and to be able to exchange, to share the experience that I'm gaining with all those projects that I'm doing. If you are interested, or if anybody around you is interested in having one-on-one sessions, it's also possible. With that, I'm really happy that we could follow this, and I'm thanking you for having followed those sessions. It's Kristen from Vision 6D, and I hope to see you soon for a next module. Bye-bye.